Welcome to another episode of Promoter Interviews with IPOPlatform.com. Today we are going to understand the SME story of Leapfrog Engineering Services, which is based out of Bangalore and belongs to the EPC sector. It is soon to launch its IPO in the public markets on the BSE SME platform. So today we have with us Mr. Prabhav Narasimha Rao, the promoter of the company, to take us to the journey of this company from the inception till its IPO. So welcome Mr. Prabhav to the knowledge sharing platform of Chittorgarh.com. We would like to congratulate you on the DRHP approval of Leapfrog. So let's begin.
Thank you, Priyanka ji, for giving us an opportunity, and it's a pleasure to be on your show.
Thank you, sir. So how was Leapfrog started and how has the company evolved since its inception in the year 2005?
So to start with, it is important to know my background. I am basically an electrical engineer with a master's in electrical engineering. I started my career in 1991 with Crompton Greaves, and thereafter I got an opportunity to join GE in Bangalore. I worked in their projects division in various capacities, and during the my experience with the GE, we saw some fundamental problems in the projects business. The entire ecosystem was built on 4 pillars. The 4 pillars were basically the customers, the project management company, the consultant, and then the 4th entity was the contracting company. Now, all these 4 entities were working in silos, and inherently this brought in the major problem of execution of the project and the cost escalations. Now, when I started this company, Leapfrog Engineering Services, in 2005, I wanted to address this fundamental issue of bringing all these 4 entities or 4 services under one roof. And hence, we started this company called as Leapfrog Engineering Services, which offers a complete end-to-end design-build solutions in the various engineering domain. We started off as a pure electrical and automation company in 2005, but over last 2 decades, we have matured into a fully integrated engineering services company, offering services across various domains, electrical and automation, mechanical, which comprises of piping, structural, and fire protection system. Then we have skid-based solutions in the instrumentation and the modular substation space and control buildings. And very recently, about 2 years ago, we ventured into the industrial robotics, the automation space, and also the process automation. So you will see that in last 20 years, that's 2 decades, we have matured from a single service engineering domain company into a full-fledged end-to-end engineering service provider.
Now, since you have shared about the wide range of services that are offered by Leapfrog Engineering, so how is Leapfrog different from a typical EPC company or an engineering contractor?
To begin with, I would not classify my company as an EPC company. Like I, said in my opening remarks, we are a solutions-based company. We bring all the engineering services under one roof. A typical contracting company would execute job based on the requirement of the client and the processes and the details laid down by the client or the project management company. We as Leapfrog Engineering Services, we get involved at the very initial stage of the project, right from defining the scope of the project. Then we get into the designing and the detail engineering. Once the detail engineering is completed, we do what is called as the complete manufacturing as per the requirement of the client, and we help the clients in complete installation and commissioning services. So you see that there is a very stark difference in a typical conventional contracting company and the way we approach the entire solution. So we bring in a lot of engineering capabilities and technology into our product basket.
Got it. Understood. So now when we are offering all these kind of services and we are also backed by engineering and technology, so which industries are the key focus areas for Leapfrog? And if I ask you, like, which is a major industry which is driving our revenue, so you can highlight on that part.
Yeah. So any process industry, for that matter, is our customer. Over the last 2 decades, we have built very strong portfolio in the oil and gas sector, in the refinery sector. Heavy industries like steel and metals is where we are heavily focused on. Food process industry, chemical fertilizers, pharma have been historically our growth drivers. Of late, in last 1.5, 2 years, there has been a renewed focus from our side on the water and the renewable segment, because these are the new sunrise industries where we think we will get a lot of growth in terms of the new investments and projects.
So from which industry we can see the next lever of growth coming in the next maybe 2 to 3 years?
So I would put 3 main industries. One is definitely our current oil and gas sector, where we are extremely strong and focused. The second growth engine would be the water segment, where because a lot of investments will come into the water segment, both in the desalination and the water distribution projects. And the third one would be the renewables, which would be basically the solar and the other renewable projects. So these 3 projects, these 3 areas would be our focus areas. Not to give away the fact that the current domains where we are working, that would surely be where we will have the focus as we get more and more projects in these domains.
Understood, Mr. Prabhav. Now, when we are talking about all these projects into your electrical solutions, industrial automation, so we would like to understand how is the project life cycle, I mean the end-to-end process for the services offered, so that our investors can understand better about the business model of the company.
So like I said, we are not a pure contracting company. When we would not like to be called as a contracting company, we are a solution-based company. So we get involved at the early stage of the project, which means we get involved in the scope definition, the design phase, the manufacturing, and the execution phase. So typically, all the projects that we execute, of the size of about let's say any oil and gas or a large heavy industry project, the typical life cycle is in the range of about 9 months to 15 months, depending upon the quantum and the size of the project. The first 2 months of any project is basically the design and the engineering phase, and then comes the manufacturing phase. Once the manufacturing of the equipment is completed, then comes the execution phase, which is typically about, which consumes about 25% of the overall project life cycle. So fundamentally, these are the 4 major, stages of any project. And at each stage, we bring in a lot of value addition in terms of our engineering capabilities and in terms of the execution capabilities.
Okay. Now we can see from the DRHP that the company has an international presence also, and Leapfrog has a very strong presence in Kuwait and the Middle East. So what is the bifurcation of revenue that we are generating from our domestic and international revenues? Can you please highlight on that?
So fundamentally, if you have seen the last 4 to 5 years of our revenues, roughly about 65 to 70% of our revenues come from international market. We are currently operating in the Middle East, and now some orders are expected from the North Africa region. 70% of our revenues are from exports. Balance 30% are from the domestic market. And Uh, Going forward, the mix will be more or less the same. It would be in the range of 70 to 30, 70-30 ratio, because the international business are where we get higher margins compared to the domestic market, and hence this mix will always probably continue for next couple of years for sure.
Okay. Now, continuing the question, so we are seeing quite geopolitical tensions in the Middle East, and the macroeconomic tensions are also there. So how will that affect our business, and is there any risk for Leapfrog here in this because of these tensions in these regions?
See, ma'am, as of now, is 3 months into the war, we have not seen much impact on our business. In fact, we are seeing a huge growth in the inquiries that are coming in from the Middle East sectors. Um, Indian companies, for that matter, will benefit because of the supply chain disruptions that are happening globally, and that the proof of that is seen in the number of inquiries that have come to us in last 3 months. As I speak to you, our current order book is in the range of about 392 crores, which are to be executed over next 1.5 years, and we have an active inquiry base of roughly about 1,200 crores. Historically, our conversion rates have been in the range of 22 to 25%. This would give you a sense in terms of where we are going forward in terms of our order book over next 1.5 years. So yes, short term there may be some risks involved in terms of the supply chain disruptions because of the freight costs going up. However, we feel that long term it is definitely going to benefit companies like us, which offer complete integrated solutions.
Now, from the draft prospectus, we also came to know that Leapfrog Engineering is adding a new assembling facility. So, can you please brief us about this development and how this will help us to grow and expand, and how it will result in the top line for the company?
Yes. Currently, the way we are structured is, we have a small assembly unit basically for all our captive requirement. So all my projects, wherever the control panels, the PLC panels, and the automation panels are required, these are assembled in our unit in Bangalore. However, this is not sufficient for the growing demand of our new projects. Now, this new assembly unit is basically going to cater to our growing demand. By having a larger facility, it will give us a lot of bandwidth in terms of catering to not only the new requirements, but also to the new sectors that we intend to grow. Second is the assembly unit will also have our own engineering facility, which we are currently operating from our office over here. Now, with the new engineering facility coming up in the new location, it will give us a lot of control on the deliveries, and our operating margins will definitely improve because of the new addition of the assembly unit.
Okay. Now coming to our sector where we are operating in, so wanted to understand about the market size of this sector, and how globally also and in India also, and how much market share do we, are we projected to capture maybe in the next 2 to 3 years? And you can also highlight on the current order book that we have that will actually, maybe show our share in the market.
It will be very difficult for me to put a number on the market size, but I can tell you that we Leapfrog as a company is in a very sweet spot. The reason I say this is because there are very few companies which take up jobs of the ticket size of about 40 crores to about 150 crores. You will find companies which have the capabilities of executing smaller jobs, and you will have companies which have capabilities of executing larger jobs. There are very few companies which offer a complete integrated engineering solution in this range of about 40 crores to 150 crore project size in terms of the volume of the project. And this is where we qualify in most of the tenders and most of the places, because we are operating in this space where there are very few players. So this is something that I would like to highlight, because very few companies are there in this particular segment, offering complete integrated solution of the size of 40 to 150 crore.
Understood. So we can see that the company is well placed in terms of the diversification of the services offered, and in terms of the order book that they have for the next 2 to 3 years. So we appreciate this business model. Let's come on the financials of the company. So wanted to understand how has the company been growing in terms of the top line and the EBITDA and profit after taxes, and what was the revenue from operations for the stub period December ending 2025.
So let me break this into two parts, Priyanka. One is the historical data, and one which will comprise of the order book and the future growth prospects for the company, and what is it in for the investors. So historically, if you see the last 3 years of financial data, we have been growing from 100 crore company to now roughly about 150 crores. If you see the 31st stub period financials, we were at about 102 crores, and we are closing the March financials at a much higher number. So we have been growing steadily at roughly about 16 to 17% CAGR every year, and our profit margins have gradually improved from a PAT of about 10% in FY23 to roughly about 13% this financial year. Now, going forward, we expect a good traction in our PAT margins because of our growing expansion in the international market, giving more technology-driven solutions to the client. And once my assembly unit is in place, my dependence on the vendors, external vendors, will go down drastically, thereby improving our bottom line. For the investors, we have structured the pricing in such a way that the current PE multiple is at about 11 PE. Post IPO, it will be at about 15 price earning multiple. So you will see that based on the current market trend, is enough for the investor to make a very judicious decision on whether they want to invest in the company or not.
Now, having talked about the financials and the business model of the company, we understand that every company comes and operates with certain risks and challenges in the sector. So want to understand what are those risks and challenges that you would highlight in this sector?
Yeah, every business will definitely come with the inherent risk. I am not disputing that fact. The biggest risk for a company like us is we are always starved of capital, because ours is a capital intensive industry. That's one of the reasons that we are raising the capital from the market. This definitely is an inherent problem. However, we're trying to mitigate this problem by bringing in a lot of innovative solutions, by bringing in automation in our engineering business, also offering very innovative skid-based modular solutions to the client. Not to take away the fact that definitely capital will always be required to grow the company. The other risk that I would probably see is the risk of getting skilled manpower going forward, because the pace at which India is growing, all the states are growing at a rapid pace. That poses some challenges on getting skilled manpower. Again, to mitigate that problem, we are now having our own training programs within the company to ensure that the team is constantly trained and upskilled to cater to the growing demand.
Okay. Now talking about this, what will be the utilization of the IPO proceeds that we are raising from the public market?
Yeah, so we intend to raise about 88 crores, of which about 9 crores is the OFS portion. So if you remove the OFS portion, roughly about 79 CR is the total proceeds that would come to the company, of which about 27 crores we are planning to utilize in the CAPEX, which is basically for our own office and the assembly unit. And the balance would be towards the working capital and the general corporate purpose, meet the requirement of GCP and the working capital requirement.
Last question. I wanted to understand on the background of the promoters, of course, your background and your journey as a promoter in the company. And also one important question about who are the peers for Leapfrog Engineering Services, and how Leapfrog, you would say, is better placed as compared to its peers?
Sure. Part of your question I have already alluded in my earlier answers. However, to be very specific to this question, my background is, like I said, I'm an electrical engineer with masters in electrical engineering. I started my career with a large engineering company called as contractors, and then moved on to a multinational called as GE. That experience actually gave me a lot of confidence in starting my own business. And over the last 2 decades, we have grown from a single domain engineering company to a multifaceted, multi-dimensional engineering solutions provider. There has been a conscious effort on the part of myself and the other team members to grow the leadership team. If you see the RHP document, you will see that the leadership of the Leapfrog today, each and every domain is headed by industry experts. Most of them have worked in large multinational companies with minimum of about 20 years of experience. So you see that the total cumulative experience of all the domain heads is in excess of about 150 years. That gives us a lot of confidence that going forward, any new projects or any new challenges that are posed in the market, we will be able to mitigate the challenges.
Okay, understood, sir. So now the peer said, though you have spoken about it. So what is one thing that makes Leapfrog something different from other players in the same sector?
One underlying factor is providing a complete end-to-end design-based solution with a technology flavor to it. One. Second is our new concepts on the modularized solution that will give us a complete new, I would say, advantage compared to our other competitors. And this is what we are seeing in last 1.5 to 2 years. Almost all the jobs that are coming to us are coming as complete skid-based, modularized, integrated solutions. And this is where we definitely have an advantage over other peers.
Okay, understood, sir. So I think at this question we have come to an end of the interview. So definitely thank you for taking out time, Mr. Prabhav, to make us understand about the business and take us through the journey of Leapfrog Engineering. Definitely it would assist the investors and help them understand more about the company and the IPO objectives for the fundraise. So just to wrap up, Leapfrog Engineering Services IPO is soon to be launched on the BSE SME platform, with Finsure Management Services as the merchant bankers to the IPO. IPOPlatform.com is glad to be a part of this IPO and being the knowledge partners to the Leapfrog Engineering Services IPO. Thank you so much, Prabhavji, for sharing the company insights with us.
Thank you very much.